Imagine a proud European nation, birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and the very idea of money, suddenly locked out of its own banks. ATMs ration just €60 a day, hospitals ran out of medicine, pensions were frozen overnight, and millions faced a terrifying choice. Accept brutal cuts dictated by foreign officials or risk total chaos by abandoning the euro. In 2015, Greece came within hours of financial collapse, and the shocking part? The people who pushed the country to the edge walked away untouched, while ordinary families lost everything. Stay until the very end, because I'll reveal the hidden power plays that turned debt into a silent weapon, the scandalous moment a nationwide no vote was ignored, and the chilling warning signs flashing right now in countries you probably think are safe. These revelations are too explosive to miss. They could protect your own money from the same trap. In the summer of 2015, a modern European country that gave the world democracy and philosophy stood days away from total economic meltdown. Banks closed for weeks, cash machines limited withdrawals to pocket change, retirement funds froze, and a proud member of the European Union found itself begging international lenders just to keep the lights on. This wasn't a distant developing nation. This was Greece, sharing the euro with economic giants like Germany and France, using one of the world's most respected currencies. Yet it teetered on the edge of default, exactly like ancient empires in their final hours. How does a developed country, backed by powerful global institutions, end up needing rescue package after rescue package? More importantly, why should you care, even if you've never visited Athens? Because Greece offers a crystal-clear window into how the modern financial world really operates, how borrowing can quietly strip away independence, how debt turns into a political tool, and how fast a nation can lose control when the money stops flowing. Please subscribe to our channel. It means the world to us and really helps us keep creating more content like this. Thank you so much. The roots of the trouble stretch back long before the dramatic headlines. When Greece adopted the euro in 2001, everything changed overnight. For decades, it had carried high levels of borrowing and spending, but interest rates were always steep because investors saw risk. Joining the euro erased that risk in their eyes. Suddenly, lenders treated Greek government bonds almost as safely as German ones. Money poured in at record low rates, and Greece borrowed freely. Public projects exploded, new highways, gleaming airports, modern subway systems. Government salaries rose, benefits expanded, and for a while it felt like prosperity had finally arrived. Some funds truly modernized the country, but far too much disappeared into an oversized bureaucracy, generous early retirement schemes, and widespread tax avoidance. Corruption was common, revenue collection weak, and spending raced ahead of income. Beneath the surface optimism of the 2000s, the debt mountain kept growing silently. Then the global financial storm of 2008 struck. As markets panicked after major bank failures overseas, investors started examining government balance sheets more closely. When they turned to Greece, the picture was alarming. Late in 2009, the world learned that official deficit numbers had been dramatically understated for years. The true shortfall was nearly 15% of economic output, far beyond EU limits. Trust vanished instantly. Interest rates on new borrowing shot into double digits, making fresh loans impossible. By spring 2010, Greece was locked out of bond markets and turned to the European Union and International Monetary Fund for emergency help. The first rescue package totaled €110 billion, but it came with tough strings attached. Deep spending cuts, higher taxes, pension reforms, and sweeping changes to labor laws. These austerity measures were meant to shrink the deficit and calm nervous investors. Instead, they pushed the economy into a painful downward spiral. Output contracted sharply year after year. Unemployment climbed past 27%, with younger generations facing rates above 60%. Hospitals lost staff and supplies, schools deteriorated, small businesses shuttered by the thousands. Families watched lifetime savings lose value as wages fell and prices for essentials rose. Worst of all, the debt itself kept climbing. When an economy shrinks faster than you can pay down loans, the burden actually grows heavier relative to income. By 2012, a second bailout of €130 billion arrived, accompanied by the largest debt restructuring in history. Private investors were forced to accept huge losses. Yet relief remained temporary. Each new package brought fresh rounds of cuts, deeper recession, and mounting frustration. The drama peaked in 2015 when a new government, elected on promises to end austerity, called a nationwide referendum. Citizens were asked whether to accept the latest harsh terms from creditors. An overwhelming 61% voted no, sending a clear message: enough is enough. Celebrations filled the streets, but just days later, the same government signed an even stricter agreement. Why the stunning reversal? The alternative, leaving the euro, returning to a national currency, and declaring full default, would have triggered immediate bank runs, empty shelves, and economic isolation that could have lasted years. In that moment, Greece discovered its economic decisions were no longer fully its own. Budgets, taxes, pension levels, even privatization of ports and airports were now overseen by a group of institutions known as the Troika: the European Commission, European Central Bank, and IMF. Sovereignty hadn't vanished on paper, but in practice, key choices belonged to creditors. This pattern feels eerily familiar to anyone who studies history. Debt has long served as a quiet instrument of influence, no armies required. In the late 19th century, the Ottoman Empire borrowed heavily from European banks to modernize. After repeated defaults, creditors created a special administration that directly collected customs revenues, diverting funds to repayment instead of government needs. Egypt followed a similar path after ambitious projects like the Suez Canal left it overwhelmed by loans. Britain and France stepped in as financial overseers, eventually turning economic control into political dominance. Flags still flew, leaders still spoke, but real power rested with those holding the debt. Greece experienced the 21st century version, not colonial occupation, but a financial trusteeship where outside experts decided what could be spent and what had to be cut. For everyday Greeks, the human cost was devastating. Retirees saw pensions slashed by as much as 40%, forcing many elderly to skip meals or medicines. Suicide rates rose, emigration soared as young professionals fled for better opportunities abroad, and an entire generation grew up watching parents struggle. Small shops that had served neighborhoods for decades boarded up windows. Hospitals postponed surgeries due to lack of basic supplies. Even after stabilization, the economy operates at a permanently lower level. A full decade of growth simply disappeared. Today, Greece's debt still exceeds 160% of annual output, among the highest in the world. The story doesn't end in Athens. Look around and you'll see the same pressures building elsewhere. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Argentina have recently negotiated tough IMF programs, trading spending cuts for emergency funds, each time surrendering pieces of policy control. Italy carries one of Europe's heaviest debt loads, while Japan sits above 250% of GDP. Even the United States, with the unique advantage of the world's reserve currency, now owes more than $34 trillion. Bigger economies can postpone the day of reckoning, but postponement isn't the same as prevention. Greece teaches a powerful truth. When you can't print your own money, when you can't adjust its value, when daily operations depend on external financing, flexibility disappears. Choices shrink. Creditors stop being distant lenders and start making the rules. The lesson scales down to personal finances just as clearly. Borrowing feels painless when rates are low and paychecks arrive regularly. It buys homes, cars, education, vacations, everything seems within reach. But the moment confidence wavers, job loss, interest rate spike, unexpected expense, those monthly payments become chains. Options narrow, stress rises, and suddenly someone else's terms dictate your life. Greece didn't collapse with dramatic invasions or crumbling walls. It surrendered control quietly, inside one of the most advanced economic unions ever created, under institutions designed to prevent exactly this outcome. Financial independence, whether for a country or an individual, is far more fragile than most realize. History may not repeat word for word, but the rhymes are unmistakable. When a modern nation defaults like an ancient empire, we're reminded that freedom isn't guaranteed by strong institutions alone. It's protected by understanding how money and power truly work. If this opened your eyes to the hidden risks around us, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll keep showing you exactly where to look.